going on there, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. Conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. We're back for another episode. We got the movie review, of course, closing out this month's theme of suspense thriller with the with an old favorite of Roberts and myself's, Chris Nolan's, and that's 2001 Memento, starring Guy Pearce.
I thought you were pulling a Leonard where you kind of forgot where you were at for a second.
I know, right? It's like, talk too long, I forget, how I got there.
It's weird. The more you watch that movie, it's like, am I going crazy? Am I? Even Guy Pearce was talking about how he, when he was in that role, he really started to question his own thoughts and memories, and it's just like, man, it messed me up. Thanks, Chris Nolan.
We'll be getting into that. There's a little taste for you, but we'll get more into it a little bit down the road. Of course, we have our topics of the day, and all sorts of fun and interesting things will happen. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just kind of I'm in a weird headspace right now, if I'm to be honest. It's just
You seem a little different tonight, Andy. I had to admit.
Yeah, I mean, nothing. It's not as though anything personally bad happened to me, but I'm just kind of not. I don't know. I'm just kind of like my attention is divided right now. I don't know why, but. Yeah, I'm just not on the ball per usual. But hopefully proceeding down during the stream, I'll get it back. I'll tighten up. Tighten up.
I have no doubt.
I mean, yesterday was great. I mean, you and me hung out. Got to spend most of the day. What's the word? It sounds like messed up when I can't even think of words.
Who are you?
Mostly uninterrupted.
Yeah.
But it was good because it's been a while since we've hung out in person.
Yeah, it had been a while, and it was just kind of nice to. We didn't really do anything other than we watched Memento together, and another movie that we're going to be reviewing here pretty soon. We watched. We did the Blues. We watched the Blues Brothers. We watched. How else do we watch? Crap.
I watched Equilibrium.
Oh, Equilibrium, and then Police Story.
Oh yeah, the Jackie Chan movie. Yes, that's correct. I haven't seen Police Story in a long time.
That's just a movie that I don't know why I love it so much, but it's fun.
I think partly why is because it's so relatable. Because Jackie Chan is kind of like the everyman action star, because sometimes he because I pointed out yesterday, it was really not only is Jackie Chan's on fight choreography revolutionary because of all the intricate stunt work, but it was revolutionary because the hero got hit. Jackie would take as many hits as he was giving out, and like you were saying, when you see Jackie Chan, a lot of the times he's out of his depth. He's outmatched.
Yeah, definitely.
And so it's very easy to root for Jackie Chan, or it's even easy for you to empathize with him. It's just this would probably, sans the Beijing Opera House training. This would probably be me in a fight. I'd probably be getting just as much as I'm giving.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like a fun, like, it's a cheap, cheesy Hong Kong film from Hong Kong, but but there's a lot of love and care that's thrown into it. And the story is not it's not just a throwaway story like where it doesn't the story doesn't matter. It's actually a pretty good
Right.
story.
Yeah,
Um,
because yeah, in a weird way, it's again, it's a relatable story once again because it's it's Jackie Chan's character who's this upright person, and he kind of gets screwed over by the system,
yeah,
and I mean particularly nowadays, I think everyone who's been watching the media, whether on it doesn't even matter which side of the aisle you were on, but you could sympathize with Jackie's character of just kind of being hosed by the system.
yeah. I mean, it's a story that I think stands up for it's from 1985. So this is right around like
Yeah,
he's
that movie is as old as I am.
um,
Shoot.
and then yeah, no, the it's uh fun movie, good story, characters are really interesting,
Hmm.
and just the fight choreography is so. It, there's at least at that time there was nothing else like that.
Right. Um. What is it? I think I'm pretty sure I brought this up before, but I remember I went to go watch the Shang-Chi movie, and I was with some younger guys, and and I was watching it, and then and then the big fight scene in the city bus or whatever. And it was good. Don't get me wrong, it was good,
Yeah, no,
but it's just like,
I like
but
that, but everyone's
yeah,
like,
and then
man,
yeah, but then the guys that I went with,
wait.
like the younger guys I went with, was like, oh man, that was the best. That was like the best fight scene I've ever seen. I was just like,
Oh, dude, you don't even
I know
know.
you children, you don't even know, because again, not to throw shade at the actor or the stunt coordinators for for Shang Chi, but just pop in any Jackie Chan movie, um,
They're
you know
all really like you may like not all the stories are great, but man, the fight
right,
choreography is
the fight
next
choreography
level.
is just so on point, and everybody, it's actually people, and like people that that gotten hurt by performing these stunts, and this is all practical, all done with done within like multiple takes, you know uh,
Like
but
there's one
it's just like, yeah, but it's just like the power of like the human body, and like the just like the and the drive to like get it done, because at the end of Jackie Chan movies, it's kind of like how in the MCU it's expected to see a post credit stinger or mid credit
yeah.
extra scene, but in every Jackie Chan movie he always shows you the outtakes, and he shows you kind of like how the sausage was made, and you see team, like the entire team, like going over like every like step of the fight, and and like doing like little models to show you like, oh, this is how the car is going to go down the street, and this is this is where you have to start, you have to jump in the air so it just misses you, and and also the outtakes where they mess up, and you see like the amount of effort it took to just get that one shot in the can, and so um,
Yeah, and trust me, they're getting hurt. Like,
yeah, no, I remember watching Rumble in the Bronx
oh,
as a young man, and then in the bloopers you see like Jackie Chan, his leg is in a cast, and they fashioned him a sock to go over that cast on his leg to look like the pant leg and like the shoe, the shoe that he
man,
was wearing in that scene. And so it's like, and and he like jumped onto a moving truck, so it's like,
Jesus
god damn,
Christ.
yeah. So So it's like, yeah, it's like these guys aren't messing around. Like, they're like hurting themselves. Like I remember, it wasn't in this movie, but it was in another Jackie Chan movie where he falls um, like 3 or 4 stories, like on, and he lands on his neck, and like he
Oh,
could like yeah, and he could have been like paralyzed.
oh my God. That it's. I was telling you when we were watching that, it's like we will never see anything like this ever again because the training that those guys went through, like through that
Mm-hmm.
Beijing Opera House school,
Mm-hmm.
they don't do that anymore.
No,
And probably for good reason because it's kind of awful what they went through, but at the same
right.
time, like what we got from that is like,
Yeah, I mean,
worth it.
everyone cast Joe Jackson as like this monster, but he gave us Michael.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I know, I know. We have feelings about it. We have, like his personal stuff. But musically, everyone, cast Joe Jackson as the monster, but he gave us, the Jackson 5 and, eventually, Michael's solo career.
Yeah,
Um,
jeez.
and so, I mean, in that, yeah, and I understand because like nowadays with like, insurance and, uh, having to cover for like injuries and things like that, it's almost impossible to do those kind of stunts, or to train someone to do to put their body like on the line. Like, yeah, like there's that in Police Story, like when Jackie Chan's character runs down the bad guys, and they're like this double decker bus, and he stops like a car to like as a blockade, and like the bus driver like slams on the brakes, and then 3 guys come flying out, and like one, I swear, like is still going forward, but then he kind of lands like on his neck,
Yep.
right? And
It's
then
like,
also like they're in another, and like in another outtake, that they show at the end, like the bus doesn't like quite stop at the mark, and it almost like keeps going and almost like runs Jackie Chan over or
it's like,
through,
oh
and like
shit.
he jumps out like right at the last minute. It's like, oh shit, you know. So
And yeah, like there's like one of like the final stunts he does. He slides down this like metal pole down to like the bottom level of this mall that they're fighting in,
yeah, and the pole
and
is like surrounded by like all of like these like Christmas lights,
yeah,
and
it's
so
a Police Story Christmas movie, maybe. It's just, but no,
actually, yeah,
like
that's right, because the mall was like covered in Christmas decorations.
yeah, but
But
like
anyways,
the damage that he did to his hands, like that metal pole, like it burned off, like it scraped off a bunch of layers of skin on his both of his hands,
mhm,
and it's just like, and you see in like the next scene, like his hands are all fucked up, and it's like, oh god, that just looks so painful.
yeah.
And there's like even like one scene that where he kicks up like a pencil like into his hand. He did that. He took it. That took 80 some takes to do that. Just that one scene.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the West nowadays, the only person crazy enough to still do their own, at least most of their own stunts, is Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, he did like that's the scene outside of the I forget, the Burj Khalifa or whatever in Dubai.
Yeah. Oh.
He that, yeah, like that free climbing he did. That was all him. That jumping in Fallout, when he jumped from rooftop to rooftop, that was him as well.
Yep.
And also when he did that Halo jump, he literally did that.
I know. That's. Oh my god. It's so
Yeah,
that, and then like the climbing into the plane like while it's taking off.
yeah, yeah. Like being like strapped to the plane, and like as it was taking off, all of like the airflow like over him, that was him. All of like, and it's crazy. Like the I'm not, this is a Mission Impossible, but in the Jack Reacher movies, he does all of his own stunt driving. He
Yeah.
because he learned how to stunt drive. He got
That's
he he got qualified.
that's why like that first Jack Reacher film is actually really fucking good.
Yeah,
Uh, that's one of the best car chase scenes ever.
right.
I put it in
Um,
probably my top 10.
yeah. Yeah, but yeah, we watched a lot of movies the other day, and so
But
Um,
yeah, like it's for people that like watch Shang-Chi and like, oh man, it's like really awesome fight choreography, which it is.
mhm,
It's a lot of. But if you think that that's the best one that's ever come out, like I implore you to go watch any Jackie Chan film, even the bad ones, like because the fight choreography is like top notch. It's great.
mhm,
You can also watch anything like a lot of Jet Li stuff is really good too.
mhm.
You have
Yeah, I
Bruce Lee
mean,
was really the one that got it really kicked off, but I think Jackie Chan perfected it. And
yeah, I
a
mean,
lot of the
my favorite modern fight scene is in Captain America: Winter Soldier. That first fight between Captain America and the Soldier.
yeah,
That first one,
so
oh man, that is so well done. Like you feel like every hit, and it's just it's so
that
well
whole movie is just so satisfying.
executed. Yeah, that fight scene is just so great. Um, but yeah, but I qualify it by saying like my favorite modern fight scene.
Yeah,
Because yeah, anything like that Jackie Chan has done is just amazing, and it and it's not overkill, and we're not like overstating the argument by saying like Jackie Chan is like one of the best stunt performers of the last even of the last like half century.
yeah. The unfortunate part was that we kind of like I think a lot of our first interaction with Jackie Chan, at least here in America, was Rush Hour, which is great. I'm glad that
Well,
we
I
got
mean,
any.
not necessarily for me, because I had like a lot of older cousins, and I had like a lot of
Yeah,
older male friends who were like kind of who kind of were plugged in or whatever, and so like I discovered that stuff like really young, at least young in my younger days, which was like in like the mid to late 90s.
well, like I
But
said,
yeah, but a lot of a lot of people like a few years younger than me, and yeah, their first exposure to Jackie Chan was probably like Rush Hour, the Rush Hour series. And
which is great
those are great too. Because he also choreographed all that stuff with his team.
with his
Um,
and which is great. I'm glad that we got any like Jackie Chan, but he was obviously much older, so he's not.
mhm.
He's still doing he's still doing the stunts. He's still putting himself at risk. He's still uh putting together some great fight scenes. But when you look back at his old stuff, like when he was younger, hot damn, dude, like that's some really
Yeah,
stuff.
his younger days, just he was putting his body through the paces, and
Yeah.
uh,
But yeah, that was pretty much like our past week. Obviously, we had Thanksgiving.
mhm.
I went to the auto show,
And I got the
and
fried turkey.
you got the fried turkey. You didn't burn the house down. Didn't burn
Yeah,
yourself.
right.
No one went to the hospital. So success.
Success. Six.
And
Yeah.
that's
Although, I'm looking forward to next year when I can get like a proper setup. That not that the turkey didn't come out good, but this year was definitely the proof of concept year because I think my family was a little leery of like having like that much like boiling oil. Um,
yeah, yeah.
uh, you know,
Well, yeah.
but
It
yeah, I
definitely
mean
was
it's really
a
dangerous. Like because I was even like because it was particularly windy that day as well, and so um, my parents' house because they live in what is it one of those townhouses, and so they don't really have a yard, and so like
yeah,
I had to cook it in the kind of like the small little patio out in front. But it was hella windy, and I was like, oh, I'll just do it in the garage, and then and then I looked up how to fry a turkey. And it's like, don't do it in a garage, don't do it in any enclosed space, because in case the oil gets overheated and ignites, then you're screwed. So
yeah,
like, oh shit. But it still worked out. I wasn't able to keep the oil to like the frying temperature, which is about 350. Uh, But overall, it came out really well, and not too. There wasn't too much oil seepage in the turkey. It
Oh,
didn't
that's
come
good. Yeah,
out. It didn't come out all greasy and gross. So
yeah,
that was good. So now next year I'm gonna I'm gonna get like a proper setup with like a powerful propane burner and a huge like stock pot fryer with like
yeah, yeah.
with the long thermometer and all
Get
the
the,
bells and
get it,
whistles.
do it for real. But yeah, because there's always those horror stories because people don't defrost the turkey well, or
Right,
they
yeah, or they
they
don't
put
like
it in,
dry
they
they
put
don't
it in
like dry off the turkey enough,
yeah,
initially,
and it
and
fucking explodes, or like
yeah.
you get the people that like, oh, let's wait for the get the oil all boiling, and we'll just drop the turkey in, and then everything just flops out and catches fire. It's like, are you a fucking moron?
Yeah, no, I definitely did it all right. I defrosted the turkey. I did like a dry brine. Uh, the night before. I know you're supposed to do it technically 3 days ahead, but
Say la vie.
uh, yeah, it's still for or even just like a day. It still came out pretty good. And then I took out the turkey a few hours before, so it come up to somewhat room temperature. Yeah, so I was being smart about everything, because
Yeah,
again, because of where I knew I had to cook this thing, and like kind of the limitations I was working with. So preparation is the key.
but yeah, that was that was good. I didn't we didn't actually have turkey this year. We went to the pantry, um, and in years
Downtown
past,
or
in downtown, yeah.
okay, nice.
And in years past, they usually just did like the turkey dinner setup, which was always really really good. But
Hmm.
they weren't doing that this year,
Right.
so we just had I had the ham steak and eggs.
Hmm.
Oh my god, this I mean the ham was probably about a good what uh probably like maybe about just under an inch thick, and it's like it
Mm.
filled the plate. I mean,
Right.
I felt like I was eating like I had cut a huge hunk off the pig, and I was eating it. It was so
Hmm.
freaking good. Um, and then yeah, that's what I had. So we all had different stuff. I think a lot of us had breakfast,
Uh-huh.
and it was pretty much Thanksgiving. Nothing too fancy.
I see. Man, I haven't eaten at the pantry in like years.
Oh, I'm definitely going back at sometime soon because I want to try a few different things.
Yeah, I remember. I remember again as a younger man, after the club or whatever. Like me and my friends, we go like to the pantry sometimes if we're close to like downtown.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I think I did get the breakfast a lot.
it's the way to go.
Yeah, right. It's like it's like going to a steakhouse and getting the chicken. It's
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that was pretty much Thanksgiving. I didn't really do much. I mean, I guess the other thing, like I've been watching a lot of movies with my wife, and we did a couple different like marathons. I guess we ended up going through all of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies.
Mhm.
Um, oh, speaking of Sam Raimi, I actually did watch The Quick and the Dead, which is
Mhm.
a pretty damn good western of his. Like
Right.
I actually really enjoyed it.
Mhm.
Um,
Right.
the
Oh, and didn't I tell you? Uh, Sam Raimi probably watched that one western that we watched. The that was it. Once Upon a Time in America,
Once Upon a
or in the
Time,
West. In the West.
yeah, oh yeah, I 100%.
Because the A plot was basically that movie, or at least the main
Yep, that's
driving
exactly.
story of
Yep, he definitely watched that movie.
yeah.
Um, and so that was great. I really enjoyed that. I also think he probably watched Unforgiven too, because that had obviously you bring in Gene Hackman as the bad guy, who's great.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think he was watching Unforgiven too because it had that kind of that feel to it as well.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
and that movie was like packed with like a lot of stars, like either like
Up and coming.
veteran stars or up and coming. Like you had a young Leo, you had an up and coming Russell Crowe. Of course, you had Sharon Stone, Gene Hackman, of course. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I
but
mean, someone like an actor who doesn't get much acclaim, but I personally love because he's been like the voices of some of my favorite cartoon characters, and that's Keith David. Um,
oh, he's fantastic. I love Keith David.
right?
He does.
Yeah.
He's a voice actor in one of my favorite game series too. Is Mass Effect, and
Mm-hmm.
he's just great.
Yeah, just like his booming bass is just, oh, man, the voice is just so great. It's like there's no like confusing like that voice with anybody else.
yeah, him and Kevin Conroy are some of my favorite voice actors.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Keith David, he did Spawn, he did Goliath from
Right.
Gargoyles. Um, it's funny, he plays like on the cartoon Rick and Morty, he plays like the spoof version of Obama, kind of. 'Cause, like it's like they still have a black president in Rick and Morty, and yeah, Keith David voices the president.
Oh, that's so great. You know,
Yeah.
that's a show I need to get into. I know everyone keeps telling me like how great it is. I've never watched it, but I really want to. I'm gonna watch it at some point.
Yeah, it's really fun. I'll admit
It's zany,
yeah.
but it looks like it's a lot of fun, and I think it definitely it makes a lot of commentary on you know things that are going on too, from what I hear.
Yeah, it does. But yeah, it is like, and it's very it's what is it? It's very meta. It's very meta with like its references. To like and like all, and it kind of like calls out the tropes of like science fiction and things like that.
Yeah,
Particularly particularly since it's like the concept. Rick and Morty, they kind of travel and go on these zany adventures, and sometimes they go and visit like parallel universes and stuff. And so
yeah,
there's like that idea where it's like he's like, oh, every season, like, we can just, jump to a new universe if we fuck things up too much. It's just like, so they immediately like
yeah.
kind of call that out as like as a thing where it's like, oh, that's so cheap, and then it's like, oh, it's so cheap though. Like when shows they just jump to like they just do like a restart of like the series, and it's like, yeah, yeah,
But yeah. So, anyways, like we watched through the Sam Raimi Spider Mans just because the new Spider Man movie that's coming out looks like it's gonna have at least some of the characters from the Sam Raimi Spider Mans and from the Andrew Garfield Spider Man universe too. So,
yeah.
which I think is gonna be really interesting, but I wanted her to watch the Sam Raimi ones just because uh, she'll get the references now that are
Right.
going to be
Yeah.
in
So
the
like when
movie.
she sees like Sandman, she's like, oh, what's that guy? Or
Yeah, exactly. It's like I don't have to spend time now because we've watched all the movies.
yeah, but
Um,
she's gonna forget, and then she's gonna be like, who's that guy?
yeah,
It's like,
God,
it's like, what is he? He's made of? He's like, is he made of pebbles? Is he Pebble Man?
yeah. But no, she actually not only did she enjoyed it and she actually got it pretty well. Like it wasn't I didn't have to spend a whole lot of time explaining things.
Right.
But it was just like, this was I was telling her, it's like, yeah, you kind of grew up like around the time like where she never really watched these ones, so it's like
Mm-hmm.
this was like the Spider-Man that I grew up with. It was Tobey
Mm-hmm.
Maguire, which was I think he was a really good Peter Parker, an okay Spider-Man. Then we got
Right.
Andrew Garfield, who was a great Spider-Man, but like not a really good Peter Parker.
Or at least
And
not the Peter Parker that we would like. Cause because I really liked his Spider Man. Cause yeah, his Spider Man was very like smart alecky with like the quips and like. But his Peter Parker was not an underdog. He was like the intermediate. He's like like in between like the cool kids and like the nerds. He was like a nerdy cool kid who like the other like nerdy kids kind of looked up to, and like he protected them against like the popular kids. So
Yeah.
it's like instead of like he himself being bullied too. Um, but yeah.
The one thing I would have liked to have seen fleshed out more, because I thought it was interesting, was the idea of, because we don't really know what happened to Spider-Man's parents, because obviously, Peter
hmm,
Parker lives with his aunt,
right, and his
and they
uncle
were trying
Benny.
to do this like kind of like subplot with like that his parents were actually like really famous like scientists that they had discovered something, or they were into something, and it ended up getting them killed.
Right.
And he was trying to figure out the truth, but what his dad was getting into, which I was like, yes, I would think this is a cool story, and I would like to see more, but unfortunately we never got there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The Amazing Spider-Man universe we never got to see more of. Um, yeah, and it was. I think. I mean, despite the kind of the shortcomings of the second Amazing Spider-Man movie, I thought it was. I thought it had interest, enough interesting things that they set up in like the first movie, and like even in the second one, that it could lead to some interesting places. Actually, in a deleted scene, um, there's the montage of Peter going to visit Gwen Stacy's grave. Spoiler alert: she dies. Um,
Yeah.
uh, what was it? In a deleted scene, his dad was supposed to pop back up. And
Oh
there was
wow.
yeah, he was like they were going to have like you know like kind of reconciliation. Like he was gonna be really mad. I was like, oh, like you were alive this whole time, but you never came back to me, da da da, or what have you. But I'm glad that they didn't go that way
No, I'm
because
glad
then
they
I
didn't
think it
go.
would have undercutted the mystery that was like, oh, what happened to the Parkers?
Yeah, and
It's like
that I
well, I
was
mean, it is like revealed in like a log entry or whatever in the secret laboratory. They're like, oh, like I know, I was the one that was able to create these genetic spiders, and like, they only work because of my DNA, and they only respond to like my DNA, and like, and so it's like, oh, so now you understand why, like, because when Peter Parker was bitten, why he was able to develop powers, and like, because you would think like the scientists working with these spiders, like, oh, like they'd be, one of them would have to have been bitten at some point, and like they should have
right.
developed powers too, right? But it's like, no. The only reason why it works is because he cut, Richard Parker, Peter Parker's dad, cut his DNA, spliced his DNA into these spiders.
Right.
And I thought that was a pretty neat way of explaining why he got powers.
Yeah. Like I said, that to me was an interesting story that we never got to really see fleshed out more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I was like, it was fun kind of showing her the Spider-Man that you and I grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then we ended up doing I think we did like a whole like action movie like kind of like run. We watched uh what the hell did we watch? We started with a Vengeance, Lethal
Mm-hmm.
Weapon. Um, actually, I ended up watching a bunch of different stuff. And then she ended up falling asleep, and then I just went on a whole run. Like I watched like Friday and a whole bunch of other like, films. Dude,
My
Friday is
favorite,
that's a great that's
dude. My favorite, the opening scene is my favorite one. A part of that movie, or at least
yeah.
one of my favorite parts. It's like it's like these Jehovah's Witnesses come and like wake up Trey. It's like, hi. It's like, we're here from the church, Church of Latter Day Saints. It's like, have you ever met Jesus? And they just slammed the door and on it, and then like the old lady's like, well, fuck you.
Yeah, it's so you know what that movie reminds me of a lot? Like it reminds me of Friday and Clerks are I think go hand in hand.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, yeah. One is kind of like, Clerks is like a little bit more cerebral and kind of like nerd pop, culture kind of stuff, where
Yeah,
as opposed to Friday, where it's like more ghetto and like talking about you know uh, not. I mean, it's less cerebral, but it's not. But it still does like a commentary about like life in like the hood and
yeah. But
what goes on.
I I absolutely love Friday though. That we might have to do that movie at some point just because it's fun.
Yeah, it's a good one, and
Um,
it's actually like a really good uh, message too at the end. And it's like wow, and it's also really unique. I mean, God, they're
what it
gonna
means
hate.
to be a
They
man.
hate us anyway. They're gonna hate me anyways. But it's like because Trey is the only one that's portrayed with a father.
Yep.
In that movie, and so like, and when he's about to go do something stupid, his dad comes in and is like, "Hey, don't be stupid," because
He kind of acts like a kind of a crazy goofball, like whatever. But like, in the end, like he's actually like, he cares about his son. It's like, don't do it.
yeah, played
Men
by the
don't use
great late
guns.
great
Use your
John
words.
Witherspoon.
Yeah, use your words.
Rest
Use
in
your
peace.
fist.
Yeah, because Trey, like, because he was like he got in some trouble with like the local like drug dealer,
Yeah,
and he went to go get like he had a gun, unbeknownst to his dad, and he went to go get his, but and when the big worm, I believe it was, kind of put a hit out on him, he went to go get his gun to for protection, and his dad finds him with it, and instead of like instead of yelling at him or whatever, he like talks to him and reasons with him. It's like, hey, don't go down don't go down that road, all right. It's like if you want to be a man, you live, you have to live to see, uh, another day.
yeah,
And so like, and he was talking about like, if you're gonna be a man, be a man, and like, you know, face your problems head on and deal with them, and don't take the easy way out, because that's just gonna lead to more, trouble. It's just like, damn, like this, such a great message, and like you think just like some stupid, stoner comedy, because it is a stoner comedy, because this
oh
is a
yeah,
character of Smokey.
yeah. You got knocked the fuck
Fuck
out.
out. Well, yeah, like
Oh
partly the reason why he gets into like that trouble is because like Smokey is like supposed to be dealing for the local drug dealer, but he ends up smoking his own supply, and so
yeah. Oh man. And
but
then
yeah,
we
but
were
yeah.
doing Korean movies and stuff. We went through like a bunch of the Bong Joon Ho films. Not
Mm-hmm.
other than Parasite, obviously, which is his probably his most famous work now. But we watched Memories of Murder, Mother, and Snowpiercer.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, all great movies that we'll eventually have to talk about as well, because I
Mm-hmm.
think they're really works of art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
But yeah, that's pretty much been my week. Like it's just been, and now it's the Christmas season, so work is pretty intense.
I'm sure. Yeah, oh, I follow this one page on not only this page, but I follow this page called Gutter People from Los Angeles
Uh
or
huh.
LA. Yeah, and what is it? An Amazon driver got jacked in San Pedro.
Jesus.
Yeah, so yeah, all those packages got jacked, got stolen, and so
Well, it's funny. Well, even at our office, even at our office, we had somebody pull a knife on one of our carriers, and then unfortunately, like they're not allowed to carry any sort of weapon or anything either, but.
hmm
Um, what they do have is they have like the that like dog spray for dogs, and he's
hmm
like, at first he thought the guy was like joking, and he's like, no, I ain't kidding, and it's like, and he's like, okay, and he just like took the dog spray out and sprayed him in the eyes, and it's like kicked his ass. It's like, the thing is like the guy, I mean, he's like, dude, it's like. I was like, I fucked that guy up because it's like, come on. I mean, I mean, the guy is pretty tough, but I'm just like, damn, man, that's just crazy that it's that shit's happening. It's um, this is that Biden America. Like it's Jimmy Carter the Revenge. I mean, it's and like that
Yeah, I
era.
mean, right, but it can't fully be placed on Biden because California specifically passed a law. Like we passed, it wasn't like some stupid ass executive order or a policy put forth by a district attorney or something. People
Yeah,
of California voted on this and they
shit.
passed it. So they're saying that yeah, we want this, and the law I think it was Proposition 40 something.
Yeah,
But yeah, you could basically steal up to like just short of like $950 worth of stuff, and you can't be prosecuted.
that's yeah that and that, of course that's
Right? But then also like you have like the whole defund the police movement and like because criminals they keep up with the news too, and so like they hear it's like oh yeah LAPD is going to be defunded 150 million dollars, and then you hear about all of like these you know cops and first responders for quitting their jobs or retiring early and just like open season. It's I forget who I was talking to, but we were talking about like the law. It's like, oh, I can't believe all this stuff is happening, and I straight up told them, it's like, it's only a law, if people follow it,
yeah.
or it's only a law if it gets enforced. And so yeah, right now there is no deterrent for this kind of crime. Just recently, where close to like where I live, at the mall, there was that smash and grab thing. Like it was coordinated. It was all those people that come in like smash the cases, stole all the jewelry and just bugged out. Um, you know, all done within like within a minute or so. And
Yep.
but then but those people aren't going to be caught. Those people aren't going to be prosecuted. I mean, particularly with like the DA that we have in Los Angeles. Um, I don't know where. I know there was an effort to recall him, but I haven't heard much on that. I don't even know where it is in the particular process. Um, but
It's like it's like you're the head attorney of like the people. That you're supposed to
right.
protect the
Well, he
people.
specifically is supposed to be representing the public good and the public at
Right.
large. But he instead is acting as though he's a public defender and he is coddling and more concerned with the the rights or the treatment of the criminals.
Well, you voted for him, Andy.
Yeah, I know. We'll never, dude. I swear, I was looking for dirt on this guy. I literally couldn't find it.
I know. I'm giving you a hard time, Andy. Like
Yeah, I know, dude.
it's
Like
like
after
the
like when he made like when he after he was elected and he put out that first like tweet or like press release saying like, oh, this is what I'm gonna start. This is the policies I'm gonna start implementing. Like my stomach literally turned. And
yeah,
that's why I have some but not total compassion for Biden voters, particularly the ones who just wanted like particularly who just wanted the craziness to stop and they thought that he was the best bet. I have some compassion for them.
well,
Um,
because the thing, that was actually one of the few uh races, like when we were doing our voting and stuff, like that was actually one of the few races, like I know the one person that's in and I don't like them. There's no information on this other guy. I'm not going to vote because I can't, I'm not going to make a decision one way or the other,
mm,
because I don't like the guy that's in there and I don't know anything about this guy. There's like no information,
mm,
which I'm very skeptical about.
Right. Although I broke my own rule, but it's like, and that is, go, deal with the devil that you know. Um, and yeah, I wasn't so well versed on the career of the previous um, DA of Los Angeles, but Jackie something or other. But I know she didn't like make all these crazy policy changes and like was saying like, oh yeah, we're going to defund the police, or we're going to do away with bail. Um, you know, yeah. So yeah, I broke my own rule. And that is like if absence of information on the opponent, go with the incumbent.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, that's just the rule for like tie breaking, not like a rule that I go like kind of like a not rule of thumb, but just kind of like in case of tie break, do this.
yeah.
Um, and
It's a good
so
rule to have, or
yeah,
usually like if because people don't realize this is that you don't necessarily if you don't know some about like a certain like race, like honestly,
or a
I don't
particular
know any.
candidate,
Yeah, it's like I don't know anything about this dog catcher race.
right,
You don't have to vote on it. Like,
right,
so if you know what's going on, and you're like, yes, this is the guy that we need in office for that dog catcher role, like then yeah, you vote on it. But if you don't know anything, or if you don't know anything about a like one of the propositions, because there's so many fucking many of them.
right, and then
Um,
yeah, and especially the way that they're worded too. Because like I remember like that gas tax thing, they did it in a tricky way where like even if you're voting no on it, you're somehow voting yes for it.
yeah, and
And
it's
that's how
like,
they
and
fucked over a lot of people. And it's like,
I think
what?
yeah, I think because in the general rule of thumb is I'm usually voting no on all that shit because like no,
Right?
I don't
Yeah,
want to see
exactly.
anything on those. I don't
Yeah, exactly.
damn war widows. Like I don't want to
Yeah,
give them money. It's like, but no, but that because somebody smart knew that a lot of people do that. It's like okay, well we're gonna word it in a way where like voting no is actually voting for it. It's like
mm,
you. It's so you have to be careful. You have to read this stuff.
right.
And
Yeah,
even
and
like a lot
then
of times too, like I know, obviously, like many people on our side of the aisle, it's like, well, we're not going to vote for any like Democrat. It's like, but honestly, just voting like down
down
the
ballot
party
too is
line is not
problematic
good
too.
either. Because
Yeah.
honestly, there's a lot of people that are in our party that are rhinos. They're Republican in name only. Like they don't actually. Uh,
Or they talk tough on one thing, but then they bitch out on another thing.
yeah, it's like it's just
Um,
kind of like, well, what's the point? Like you're just they're
yeah, I
worthless.
mean, case in point, Glenn Youngkin, the new governor of Virginia, he was really tough on education and like anti against like CRT, whatever.
Great.
But yeah, but then he bitched out on what was it? Um, was this free speech issue or was it a vaccine something?
Oh, and like I had
I
heard something. I forgot what it was, but I had heard something where it's like, oh, he just completely like caved on something else. It's like, no, idiot, that's important too. Like you're
yeah,
that's
exactly.
why
So like
people.
like I said, like yeah, they go hard, they go fire and brimstone on one topic uh, or subject, but then like on another thing, they're like they totally bitch out and they cave. And again, like yeah, and even Rand Paul recently, because if Rand Paul ran for president, I would totally vote for him. Um, but
Yeah,
he bitched out on the like the whole vaccine. I mean, I know we said that we were going to talk about, but this is like maybe one of the only things that I really talk about is because of like the new variant or whatever, and you know uh, you know the the drug manufacturers, they're even admitting that the vaccine won't do anything against this new variant. So like, oh, and then so Rand Paul, instead of saying, all right, well then no more, vaccine mandates, or just no more vaccines, he's like, oh well, we need a new vaccine then. It's just like, no, that's not the point.
It's oh my god. It's like you're that's been like, you know, the only guy that has been actually going after Dr. Fauci and his
And yeah, putting his feet
insanity.
to the fire and everything, and
Yeah,
but like again,
and
it's like the whole thing with Trump. Like whenever he does like an interview, he goes into like vaccine salesman mode. Like, oh yeah, well, I did the vaccine, and like we did the fastest ever, and like no, and like there wouldn't be any vaccine hesitancy. If I was still president, it's like, do you know that that's a losing topic? Like there, like during his rally or whatever in Alabama, when he brought up vaccines, he got fucking booed because Trump isn't the Trump that he was in 2016, where he had his finger on the pulse, he had his ear to the ground about his constituency, and like yeah, he doesn't know that people don't want to hear about fucking vaccines or vaccine mandates or how the vaccine is so great. It's like we're tired of it because that's what the same thing we get from the other side. You're giving us the same message from the other side.
yeah, it's that's honestly that's a shame. Because and I was like, man, at least we have like, I know it's like it's not enough, but you at least have like one guy that's actually like, not buying into that stuff and is actually holding people accountable and taking action against them. And it's just like, come on, man, no. It just
Well, yeah. I mean, since we're in it now, let's get into the topic. I know we went way too long in the preamble, but this will be a short one, anyways. But yeah, just because I don't necessarily want again, I necessarily don't want to talk about the Omicron variant because it's bullshit. And if you didn't know, they first discovered the Omicron variant in 4 vaccinated people.
oh yeah. Well, according to Jim Cramer calling the unvaccinated, like, what was the term he used? It was
Yeah,
that they're just,
incubators.
yeah, that yet like this supposed new variant came out and people who are vaccinated. It's like, okay, well, that's not true, obviously.
Right. Yeah, and it's like how like and again like they've already like kind of gone into like panic, or like the media's already like gone into like you must be afraid of this thing kind of mode. Um,
Keith
when
Olbermann like going completely insane.
right,
Uh,
like screeching at us, our the plebs from his fucking penthouse apartment overlooking Central Park. Fuck
I
that
can't.
guy. But yeah, like the head like health person in Botswana or South Africa, or I forget which one of those countries. She even came out and said like, "Hey, this we just discovered this. We don't even know exactly, what this is or how bad it is. So just pump your fucking brakes with all of like these travel bans or whatever." Um, and that's really what I want to talk about, or briefly discuss, is kind of like the inhumanity towards people, like the lack of compassion. Because yeah, like the Jim Cramer thing. I just heard about this just before we came on. And he basically said like, yeah, well, the military should be in charge of it, and everyone should get vaccinated, and if you want to like remain unvaccinated, then you have to make your case in like court, um, and like and present your status as like a conscientious objector, like in court. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's
You know?
here's another like thing where it's like, listen, dude, like you're the Mad Money guy. Why don't you
Yeah,
stick to
exactly. Yeah, stick to the money shit. If you want to talk about like how like Pfizer and Moderna like made like crazy money in the last like quarter, fine, yeah, go ahead. But
like,
don't fucking talk about like policy
yeah, it's
about
like, hey,
around
let's test
surrounding vaccines,
it's like, hey guys, buy on Pfizer. It's like, okay, yeah, that might make sense because they are
right?
making.
Yeah, buy
Yeah,
Pfizer stock right now. It's like, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, he was like making a case for like like literally a segregation or discrimination based on vaccine status. And I took particular onus because he was going after immunocompromised people. Some who through no fault of their own, they just have fucked up immune systems, or kind of personally, my niece who's a two-time cancer survivor, had her immune system destroyed through chemo, can't take this vaccine. And so
Yeah.
he said like, oh, like these immunocompromised people who can lawfully go unvaccinated. It's like, just what, lawfully unvaccinated?
Plus
What the fuck?
the other thing about too, like, you know, I mean, obviously, I don't think it's as full blown as, like, how people thought it was going to be like in the '80s, but people who have like HIV or AIDS, what the fuck are they supposed to do? Like,
Yeah, no, exactly.
because those are the protected ones, from the left. It's like, oh, we have to, HIV is a serious disease and anyone can have it, and it's like, exactly, okay, so then what are those people supposed to do? Like, are
Hmm.
they awful because they don't want to get the vaccine because they're
Hmm.
gonna, essentially die?
Yeah, and it's just like the just the callousness and inhumanity of these people. Uh, and I'm gonna give it the other way too, because there's some people who are taking, like the meme thing about like, oh, I'm not gonna allow you to call me unvaccinated. I want you to call me by, my preferred title, which is like pure blood. It's like, there are people who could take that like too seriously too, because there's people who are freaked out about the vaccinated people too. Like the fear of like, shedding, and like, just being around a vaccinated person, like that somehow has like some sort of negative health effects for the
Both of those
unvaccinated
people
person.
are fucking idiots.
Yeah, no,
That,
exactly. Yeah, I mean, you know what, I, I'm gonna just, I'm gonna refrain from weighing in just yet, all right? Because yeah, we have like these, anecdotal cases and stuff like that, and for some reason they're not, looking into that as hard as, say, like testing the efficacy of masks on dummies. Um, that's a literal thing. They literally did that. They said like, oh yeah, masks work great, on dummies. They tested it on fucking mannequins.
oh yeah, of course. It's a faceless, probably usually just a torso with a head.
Yeah, right.
That
It's like, yeah,
that
it's just like, yeah, it's like, this thing. It's not a respiratory. It's not a respiratory thing. We don't need to see what the impact is on the lungs. Uh, but
at least
hmm.
at least for the fucks, at least put on like dogs or like something that actually has lungs and breathe.
Right, and then snip their vocal cords so you don't have to hear all the yapping.
Jesus Christ! Oh, Dr.
I,
Fauci.
I know. Again, that was Fauci. Again, Fauci.
Who and that we talked about this. That's the thing that's gonna take this guy down. Dr. Fauci is fucking dogs. Not for all the horrible
Dude, it's
policies
already been like 3 weeks
that
since
have.
that story came out, and he's still fucking on TV talking about how, yeah, get the vaccine, and it's like, oh, fucking hell. Fauci, like, he did, like, there was like a puff interview that they did for like CBS, when he was talking. It's crazy because he, was the reporter asked him about, people like attacking him, and he mentioned Rand Paul and things like that. And then and as a deflection, he's like, oh yeah, like, you know, it's like, oh yeah, the lab leak. Oh yeah, tell me what happened on January 6th, Senator. It was like, oh, you fucking piece of shit.
Well, I'm sure his documentary on Disney Plus is completely unbiased. It's completely objective,
Right.
and
You know what?
and it just gives about this great doctor.
Yeah. You know what's great? I don't like. It wasn't Owen Benjamin himself, but like one of his,
One of his
one of his,
guys.
yeah, one of his guys or followers. They took audio from like the preview for Fauci's documentary, and then like they cut in, archival images of Hitler, And but it was like talking about Fauci, but then they had like images, like quick cuts of Hitler. And then you have like Fauci, and you have Fauci's daughter talking about like, yeah, I asked my dad about like, just the role he had, and it was, but you just see Hitler, and you're just like, he's like, yeah, I asked him like, oh, how hard is it, and he told me like, yeah, it was, you know, it's really hard when you have like the weight of the world on your shoulders, and it's like, it's just like Hitler.
Man, that's great.
Right, and it's a spell breaker because it's like, yeah, you can make anyone you could make anyone look sympathetic.
You really can. You really can.
Yeah, with
And
like the right music and just like the right kind of editing.
well, and documentaries in a way too, like uh, they're movies in a different sense. Like they are telling a story from a certain side,
Mm-hmm.
and usually documentarians are going to try to do it fairly objectively, but it's not, people who are worth their salt. Like I think like Ken Burns is one of those guys. He's actually fairly objective.
Mm-hmm.
He tries to present all the sides of the information, and his stuff is usually pretty damn good. But then you get guys like what's his face, Jabba the Hutt. What the fuck is his name? God, I think I've been watching Memento.
Oh, Michael Moore.
Yeah, Michael Moore. Yeah, I almost said Michael Myers. It's like, yeah, Michael Moore, who
Yeah, he's too
is
fat to be Michael Myers.
yeah, Michael Moore is garbage. All his stuff is terrible. It's very biased, and he actually like says a lot of horrible things about people that's not true,
Mm-hmm.
and people just keep buying into his shit. I don't get it. Um, but like one of the podcasts I listen to, it's a movie podcast, and one of the guys, he does short documentaries, and he's also a film director and stuff like that. And it's like, the goal of, I if I wanted to be an asshole, I could cut it a certain way to make anybody sound like a dick or stupid or however I want, but that's if I was evil, I would do that. But no, if I'm gonna be doing a documentary, I might not use everything that they say, but I'm gonna. I usually try to do it where I edit it in a way where the person is getting their point across and that they are, sound interesting, and they're trying to kind of like the point of the documentary. It's like that's how I kind of want to edit the people that I interview. And
Mm-hmm.
so I mean there's so documentaries are not like this unbiased fact mission, like what was it, not Making of a Murderer. Like that's one where that was edited in a way where you're essentially the guy who is a horrible person is being cut in a way where it's like, oh, we're sympathetic towards him. It's like the person that we need to be sympathetic towards is like his retarded nephew that he uh kind of got into, like, his crime.
Mm-hmm.
But that guy did it. It's just like you don't and because there's a whole section that's like kind of cut out where it's like
Mm-hmm.
something, you don't go from here to here just like on a
Yeah, the
snapping.
connective tissue there is missing.
Yeah, there's a big chunk missing. Um, in another case, like I don't remember if you ever watched the document HBO documentary The Jinx about Robert Durst, and like
Right. No, but I heard
that,
about it.
that dude. That's where like the documentarian, like, because I think he was just like, oh, this is an interesting story. I kind of want to get his side of the tale, and like um, and it was actually by accident that like he kind of like, wait, what? There's something that like Robert Durst said where it's like he essentially outed himself, like that he
Mm-hmm.
essentially did it, and that there was he's like there was evidence. It's like, oh shit, and he's actually in on trial now. I don't know if they've come to a conclusion on that trial, but like he's going to prison for that stuff.
Mm.
So yeah, it's kind of so in some cases documentaries accomplish their purpose and they teach you something, and then
Mm.
there's other ones like Fauci or the Pete Buttigieg documentary. Where I'm like, first of all, why are we highlighting these dopes who have done nothing
I don't
for
know.
us
Yeah,
other
what
than
significant thing has Pete Buttigieg done except take a dick in his ass?
allegedly? Because I don't know if that
Allegedly.
guy's gay. I think it's all an act.
Yeah, I mean, but it's just yeah, because it's too perfect. It's like a guy named Peter Butt is a gay guy,
Well, the other thing too is like
right?
what people don't. The
Right,
other
and
thing that
and
people.
Peter, yeah, and a Peter is just another. It's just like another another word for penis. So like penis butt.
Yeah.
A penis,
uh,
yeah, penis butt ran for president, but then he became a trap. But then he became what is it, travel secretary?
yeah, he's the travel secretary, and it's like because I like trains.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. And I fake
but
ride my bike to work.
the other thing that about him is like because he was playing off like, oh, I'm a moderate. It's like no, you're not. First of all, your dad was one of the most radical leftists that was. I think it was like he
Wait, does he come from a
wrote
political
some
family?
sort of like manifesto. Like I don't know if it was like praising like Mussolini or something like that, but like it was pretty
Whoa.
much like it was
Wait.
pretty much saying how like he was a radical communist essentially,
Hmm.
and it's like yeah, and a lot of the stuff that yes, he's presenting it in a moderate way, but like he Pete Buttigieg is a super radical leftist.
Does, does he come from a political family? Like,
Yeah, his dad is like his dad was a I don't know if he held office, but like he uh wrote a lot of political like papers and shit,
hmm.
like kind of talking about like the greatness of like communism and all sorts of crazy
Oh, so like yeah, so like his dad was like a political scientist, and
something like that. Yeah,
something like, or like held a political science degree, and he just like I guess what you would call nowadays as an academic.
yeah, but
Okay.
yeah, but so the fact that like oh he's just good old Mayor Pete from South what was it like South Bend.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
mayor,
like
but yeah, exactly. How can it? It's too perfect. Penis butt from South Bend. Oh, South Bend over. It's too perfect. It's too perfect.
man, but yeah,
But yeah, let's. I mean, to wrap it up though, yeah, I just think uh, we just can't go and like dehumanize people. Like even on the other side, where like people who choose to remain like unvaccinated, but there's a there's a there was a phrase that came up little while ago. The people who are like high on up on themselves because they got vaccinated, vaccines, vaccine supremacists. We can't
I
be unvac. The same can be be true about the other side, but we can't allow that to happen. We just have to see people as people, and like people make different decisions. It's like not everyone can eat peanuts. You can't make a person allergic to peanuts eat peanuts. Um,
No, I'm so
we should,
tired of seeing people on Twitter and Instagram like, "Oh, I got vaccinated." Yeah, it's like, why are you posting your medical information? I don't care. For what?
yeah. It's like all right, yeah. Especially like women. I was like, all right, then okay, show me the results of your Pap smear.
Yeah, yeah. It's like
And like yeah,
hey,
it was a guy's like, oh, what's the result of your last prostate
colonoscopy.
exam? Yeah,
Yeah, it's just like, who cares? Like, it's the same thing. Like, I voted. Like, yeah,
good for
I
you.
don't. Great. I'm glad you voted. hopefully you knew what the fuck you're doing
Yeah,
because
hopefully.
it affects like your way
I
of
mean, it's just
life.
like probably not, but hope I'm an optimist, so I hope that you knew what you're doing. But yeah, it's just we more and more they're gonna try and make divide us. And if we allow them to, then they win. And so like the only way to win is to not play the game. Don't even like use their fucking words. Don't like unvaccinated. Just like I'm just a person. Or vaccinated. It's like, well, I'm just a person. Or jab. Like, oh, get the jab. Oh my god, I'm so yeah, but it's so fucking tiresome. Specifically, like in my family, because I haven't gotten it. I've already had it. All right, I'm more protected than anyone in my family. Because
Yep.
I got because I actually got it naturally, and my body is currently now making the long
And
term antibodies
yeah,
to keep me safe from any other variant that comes through. Because as we all know, I mean, unless you don't know, variants are just the virus that strips parts off of itself, so it can go more undetected, which uh, also uh, lends itself to becoming less deadly than the first version.
yeah,
So like all those spike proteins or whatever, like I got them all. So like my body recognizes all of them, and so like even if one of them is like left, like my body will pick it up. It'll create the antibodies to fight off and send the white blood cells off to kill to do keep me safe. But yeah, it's just like, but also just like, yeah, I mean, in my own fam again, just in my own family, like they constantly are about on me about getting vaccinated. Like just recently, my sister, every little thing, like it's like especially if my parents do something nice for me, or do something thoughtful. It's like, oh, look at that, dad, mom and dad did this. Like, you can't get vaccinated for them. It's like, just shut up already.
oh my god,
I mean, and again, I love my parents, I love my sister, and I know that they're only thinking they only think they're thinking. I can't even speak because I'm so worked up about this. Um,
you
they
know that they
they're
care.
coming from a good place. They're coming from a good place when they're saying this, but it's just like but you think every single you trying to guilt
It's
me
not.
in that way is like the way to change my mind. Like I've talked to them multiple times, like, and every single time they're the ones yelling at me, and I'm the one calmly explaining to them I, why I don't want to get this, why I don't need this, But they're the ones who are yelling at me, and I have not once yelled at them, or screamed back at them in response and be like, no, you guys are fucking idiots and da 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 da. Like, no, I've always calmly said, this is why I don't want it. This is why I don't need it.
Yeah,
But it's just like it won't. It won't. It. But again, because they're my family, I love them. I'm gonna show them infinite patience. Even though they're not showing me patience, I'm gonna show them infinite patience.
that's a smart way to go about it.
And I mean that's how and that's how we all have to go. That's how we all have to do it. And we can't be like when it all eventually comes out, because it all eventually comes out. What's that old Buddhist saying? Two things can't be hidden for long: the sun and the truth.
Yep.
So like when it eventually all comes out that this is all bullshit and like people were freaking the fuck out for no reason. I'm not even gonna say like I told you so. I'm just gonna be like, what's for dinner?
There's always been like these panics that like we go through. Oh, there's Y2K. There's the SARS. There's this thing. There's mad cow disease. There's this or that. That's like always gonna. Oh, everyone's gonna panic. Everything's gonna be like terrible. Everyone's gonna die. Blah 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 blah. And then what happens? Nothing. it ends up like it's not that it wasn't something that could potentially happen or could potentially be really bad, but it's usually it ends up like, oh, it's actually didn't need to be like it wasn't anything that big. It was kind of like we had this scary moment. Everyone freaked the fuck out. The sky was falling, and they made all these panic decisions, and it's like,
Hmm.
but the people who are calm and make things rationally, think through things, those are usually the people that win out in the end. Oh, okay, see, everything worked out. Uh, the things that I had been calmly telling you, that I had calculated, thought through, that's what happened. And I had no nights of worry, because worrying who does that help? Nobody. Yeah, it's like, um,
Yeah,
I
I think there's a Bible verse about that.
well that's what I'm saying. It's like you know don't worry about like the about all this stuff. Like it's you know, all God is taking care of all that stuff. And in reality too, like whether you're a believer or not, like just thinking about things like trust me, there are times where like yeah, this is a really bad situation that like there's really no good solutions. There are bad things that happen. I totally get that. But the majority of the time, I would say about like 95% of the time, if you are calm, don't panic, think rationally, make uh, take in all the facts, make decisions based off those facts for for your what's best for your life. That's usually the best course of action. What's
Yeah,
happening
you
here
win.
is just manipulated outrage that is going on, and for people like us who actually kind of just it's the pattern recognition that I see. It's just like, yeah, this is constantly happening where, oh crap, oh fuck, panic. Oh wait, it didn't actually turn out to be anything. Okay, oh crap, next thing. Oh, we're gonna panic. It's like you don't. Nobody learns any fucking lessons.
Nope.
It from one disaster to another, which have a lot of similarities. Instead of just like, oh, wait a second, this already happened. Like maybe this time I won't act like a fucking moron and go crazy and attack like my neighbor or my friends. Uh, and I will just like be calm and figure this situation out. No, it's just like they do the same thing over and over and over again. It's like it's so for someone who like who can see it, it's just like just it's frustrating. It's like I want you to live a life where you're not constantly going nuts over everything. Just relax.
Right. Yeah. I know it's. This isn't like a superiority thing, but you know, you have to have the mindset of, you know, again, it's not about superiority. It's about showing. It's about showing a better way. And if you can be that example, then all the power to you. Because in the end, we win. We're gonna win.
Yeah,
I know it doesn't look like it right now, but when you see those videos, of the quote unquote Karens, like, and Karens on either side, because the ones screaming at you because you're not wearing a mask, and the ones where screaming at you because you are wearing the mask. You know, like,
they're
who
both
is?
terrible.
They're both terrible people, and they're not changing anyone else's mind. They're not changing. They're not being persuasive. They're just yelling at you, and you know, whenever someone attacks you like that, you just want to dig your heels in more, right? Um,
Yeah,
so all you have to do is show a better way, you know. And one, like, for the people like who don't want to wear masks, just like show them your smile, show them like your smile and how beautiful a human smile is, you know. Um, I mean,
And I'm not even making people who do want to wear their masks. Like, okay, like that's I get it. Okay,
yeah. I
you're
mean,
you got this.
I mean, I
That's fine.
know. Yeah, I mean, I know that they don't do anything, but if you want to wear one, go ahead and wear one.
And
Just don't try to force it on me. Just like you wouldn't force peanut butter down the throat of someone who's allergic to peanut butters.
yeah,
You know,
it,
because then it's just fucking ridiculous. You know.
it's one of those
So
things like where because we've talked about this countless times. Like, okay, if you're concerned, you want to wear the mask, like, and it's like but like you're bitching that like, oh, well, why aren't you wearing one? It's like, well, you're wearing one, like, so that should be good enough, right? It's
yeah,
it's like, if it protects you, then you're good. If you're vaccinated, then what are you worrying about?
yeah,
The fact, and what the crazy part is, we have people who are vaccinated that are scared to death of people that are unvaccinated. It's like, well, then the vaccine doesn't work, does it?
yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
doesn't work, does it?
What good is what use is a vaccine that doesn't protect? It's just like what good are sunglasses that don't block the sun?
It's like you get these people that have the vaccine, the booster shot. They're wearing 3 masks, and yet they're freaking the fuck
Right?
out
Yeah,
over.
they're covered in hand sanitizer.
And those
It's
and
like, but
these are also the people that wear sun shirts too.
yeah, yeah. I mean, although I do understand because when I go fishing, I do wear like a long sleeve shirt, and
Oh,
I do wear a neck gaiter, but that's because I'm out in the sun all the time,
yeah, that
right? And I don't,
see, that I
and plus, I think sunscreen is a scam.
you think it's a scam?
I think it's a scam.
I I'm not.
I'm not saying that sunburns don't happen or anything, but I'm just saying I'm thinking that sunscreen is a scam.
Like, it doesn't actually help you.
Yeah. Or like the benefit isn't as great as it's as advertised.
Yeah. No, but I agree with you. Like, it's like when I'm fishing too. Oh, dude, yeah, I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt anyways, because you get that. Because sometimes it's not necessarily like the sun, but like you get that like the reflection off the water too, which also is like kind of it can get really like um. So yeah, I just because I made the mistake like when I went kayaking like in the summer for our anniversary. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh man, like I actually wasn't too bad, but like my wife, first she got really bad sunburn.
Mm-hmm. But again, yeah, I'm not saying that you won't get sunburn. But I'm just saying like yeah, I think sunscreen is doesn't provide you as much protection as you might think.
Yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah. Plus, I don't like the greasy feel of sunscreen on like, especially particularly on my face. Like I can kind of get over it like on my arms or whatever, but it's just like
Oh,
I
putting
don't
on my
necessarily
face,
like the feeling of
it
sunscreen.
just uh yeah, I don't like that feeling on my face either.
Yeah. So yeah. So I mean, yeah. I know technically it's a mask, but it's like yeah. I'll like wear a neck gaiter that comes up that I could like protect my face, and I'll wear a hat and sunglasses and all that. Um, but yeah, it's just like it's and the people who like freak out, like even though that they're vaccinated, it's just the same as if you were wearing sunglasses and then the other person wasn't, and you freaking the fuck out, they're like, oh, like don't you know if you don't wear your sunglasses, my sunglasses don't work.
Yeah.
How absurd is that? How absurd is that?
Yeah. Oh man.
It's like, well, like if you're and it's like if people can still get it, even getting vaccinated, then what is the point? Like I literally have said that to my parents countless times. They just don't want to hear it. They're just like, well, you have to get it anyways, or you won't be able to go to restaurants or whatever. It's like, okay,
Okay.
okay, fine. I make better food than some of these restaurants.
Yeah. I don't need to
Yeah,
go to the French Laundry or
yeah, no, I
wherever.
don't. Yeah, I'll fucking learn how to make all the food myself. Yeah. Yeah. But
Plus,
yeah, again,
that way.
what was it?
Plus, it's cheaper doing it that way.
Yeah,
And
right, exactly.
after cooking, Andy, it's pretty spectacular.
Yeah. I have developed a bit of a reputation for myself.
Your donuts are some of the best I've ever had.
Yeah. uh,
I'm still waiting for your fried chicken. Um,
yes.
I might,
Yes, we'll have to make a night of it.
yeah,
We'll pencil it in.
yeah, we'll do that because I have had your fried turkey, and that is pretty damn good.
Mm. Yeah. So the moral of the story, folks, is be good to each other. The more
Uh,
the more they try to divide us, and the more we divide ourselves, is it's they win, or at least they're getting the outcome that they want. And all it does is leave us alone and unhappy.
turn off the legacy media.
Yeah.
Uh, stop reading legacy print journalism.
Hmm.
It's all garbage. It's meant
Right.
to.
I mean, I remember constantly my parents would, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a really good $5 word. Uh, reproach, reproachment. I'll just go with that for now. My parents would reproach me because I would like parrot something I heard on TV, and they'd always tell me, "Oh, don't believe everything you hear on TV."
Yeah, but now like everyone's
But now
believing,
it's like just totally believe everything you hear on TV. You're just like, what?
and if you think that like the oh it's just recently it's gotten really bad. It's like no, it's always
No, it's
been bad.
always been bad.
It's just now is off. Like it's like you see like the horrible grotesque ghoul that's underneath the Phantom of the Opera mask. It's just it's but this has always been there. Even like with
Right.
like the um trusted faces in news, legacy media with your Walter Cronkites and your Edward Murrows. Like these people were also skeptical, horrible people too. Like that had a bias, and
Yeah,
they,
Walter Cronkite was a commie.
yeah, especially later in life, like that guy's like revealed who he really was, and it's like that guy was not the trusted like face of news that
Yeah, like what was it?
you know,
Like they called him Uncle Walt.
yeah. Um, and you have like even with going back to
I mean,
like
no surprise. Because they like during World War II, and I get it, like we are allies and everything, but yeah, mainstream media they called Joseph Stalin Uncle Joe.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you had well, I mean, to his credit, I don't think this was fully on Walter Durante, but like the New York Times was never a newspaper. It was just uh, it's always been awful. But
Hmm.
like the fact that like, oh, I've seen the future and it works. Talking about like Stalin's Soviet Union,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
after like after witnessing all the starvation and like the cannibal islands and shit that like Stalin was doing to the people over there, it's like, oh, I've seen the future and it works. Like, no, there was horrible crimes that were going on over there
Yeah,
that
crimes against humanity.
are really
Um,
awful shit. But
yeah,
so
and if you might not know this, but the New York Times was the only newspaper in the entire country that was allowed to report on the bombing of Hiroshima.
what?
Yeah, look into it. They were the only paper, and any paper that dared write about the bombing of Hiroshima was thrown into jail. Like I think on charges of treason.
Get out of here.
Yeah, look into it.
As far as print journalism goes, the only
Mhm.
paper that talked about the bombings
Or was
was the New York Times.
allowed, yeah, was allowed to write about it, was the New York Times. And again, it was founded by people who claimed to be from a certain tribe.
Well, from what I know, because there was a guy that wrote a pretty interesting book on about like the New York Times, like how it was just never a newspaper. Like
Hmm.
the guy that founded it actually was a decent journalist, or like was trying to create a good newspaper, but like I don't know if he got bought out by and like the group that ran it back then. Like yeah, it's so I had to look back like when it was founded, but
Hmm.
that's fascinating. If they're the only one that was allowed, because I'm trying to think of like all the old like articles like talking about that happening, and it's like
Hmm.
so you're telling me that it was only the New York Times that talked about it?
Yeah. But again, allowed to write about it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, allowed to cover it. Only the New York Times was allowed. Any other paper or whatever tried to write about it, or was like, yeah, immediately like they were
like,
shut down,
like
or like
like the
the
Kansas
the
City
writer
Star.
or reporter was thrown to prison.
So like the Kansas City Star, or like the Los Angeles Times, they're not talking about it.
Nope.
That's
Yeah, I
crazy.
mean, yeah, the only way that they could is if they reprinted something from the New York Times.
Yeah, because I was trying to think like because other newspapers had stuff on it,
Hmm.
but it's all just a copy from like they pretty much got like the copy from the New York Times and just kind of like reposted it.
Yeah.
So it's essentially like journalists today who are on Twitter is like who parrot each other, and like
Hmm.
when like oh here's the narrative, and all these journalists from these different organizations are just saying the same goddamn thing. That's pretty much what happened. Oh, that's fascinating because I actually then I'm gonna look into that because looking at like okay because you have the LA Times, you have the New York Times, you have the Chicago Sun Times or whatever, and you
Hmm.
compare like those articles talking about like the bombings, like they're gonna be really close. That's fascinating.
Yeah. Yes. Well, speaking of journalistic malpractice, let's get into the second topic of the night, which is what should be pretty big news, and that is the trials of both whatever Ghislaine, Maxwell,
Yeah, and
and Juicy Smollier.
no one's talking about these
Yeah, nobody's
at
talking about it. It
all.
started yesterday. The trials began yesterday. And yeah, but then like all of like the variant stuff and there's I don't know what they're still talking about Kyle Rittenhouse. Um,
Yep. Oh, because Kyle Rittenhouse is terrible.
yeah,
He
because hashtag
should
white supremacy.
and but no, these other people who are um essentially you
Yeah,
have
I
Ghislaine
mean,
Maxwell, who is the Redfield of at least the largest American human trafficking ring,
hmm
with Jeffrey Epstein.
hmm
That is just uh, to be honest, I don't think anything's gonna happen to this lady,
hmm
other than the fact that like I'm shocked that she's still alive.
right,
Uh,
yeah. Yeah, I'm surprised she
but
didn't get the Epstein treatment.
I think the reason that she's alive is because they know that she's not going to name any names. I think nothing is going to come of this trial
Mhm.
because we're not going to hear anything about it hardly.
Right, yeah, because they're not, yeah, because they're not gonna put it on like court TV or whatever or live stream it.
We're gonna
Not like for the Rittenhouse trial.
we're gonna get
Um,
artist renderings.
right? Yeah, we're gonna get like the court room artist who's gonna like all we're gonna do is get like the sketches, and then for Jesse, like yeah, no, they're not even gonna bother with that.
Nope.
No information is gonna come out on the news regarding that trial, even though he. It's so stupid. I think just before like the trial began, there was like uh, no, I may be misremembering, so I don't want to say something not factual, but just like, but if you take the premise of it, he's saying that during a polar vortex, sub-zero temperatures, he went out to go get a Subway sandwich, and then he was attacked again in sub-zero temperature by two white guys in the middle of downtown Chicago, like the heart of liberal, you know, one of liberal Mecca, Chicago. And supposedly those two white guys screamed, like, recognized them, and like just happened to have a noose and a bottle of bleach with them, and they screamed out, "This is MAGA country."
What, you don't have that? You don't have that kid in your car, Andy? Like the news and bleach and your MAGA hat
No,
and
I'm still a decade. I'm still like a couple of decades behind. I still got my queer bashing kit.
yeah,
You know,
it,
which is just a bat and like a caulking gun and a bag full of glitter.
yeah, it's the story's ridiculous, and the
Yeah, it's always
fact that
ridiculous.
like
Yeah, and
yeah,
then like when it turns out like it was like these two these two like Nigerian brothers who he has a pre-existing relationship with, um,
and they
that
bought
did
everything
it.
at the store. Didn't they pay by check or something, like something
There's some like
ridiculous?
yeah, there was a paper trail. There was a paper trail.
It's just like, dude, pay cash.
I know.
God,
There's a
are you
paper
guys?
trail.
No, don't. First of all, don't buy everything at the same store, and don't. And if you're gonna
Right, and don't
buy
buy it
it,
all at the
pay it.
same time. Buy little bits here and a little bit here and there leading up to the
It's like,
thing.
take your time, man. Like at
Yeah,
least, Jesus Christ, it's
yeah, and
just
and then also to Jesse, figure out your angles, because he picked a spot where he saw like a camera, like one of those dome cameras that's like run operated by the city, but he got the angle wrong, and so like it didn't even catch like everything that he wanted. It didn't catch the attack, quote unquote.
well. That's why he'll never be a cinematographer.
Yeah, exactly. But nowadays, like, who really wants to be a cinematographer? Especially if you got, if with the Alec Baldwins out there,
Oh God, yeah. Open season.
right? But yeah, yeah, these trials are gonna be memory hold, even though they're super significant.
I think with the Smollett one though, I actually do think there's going to be some jail time because what he did were uh, people don't realize like the him sending the through the mail, like the supposed threats through the mail.
Oh
That's
yeah, that's a federal offense.
that's that's big boy time.
Hmm.
Well, especially the way that they treat these hate crimes, just
Hmm.
there's a special brand of crime that's hate crimes, and it's not like in the with the Office where it's like that's not a hate crime. It's like, well, I hated it. That's not the you know, which, dude, I about died. That bit, I was like, I thought I was gonna die when I heard that. But no, it's like it's not. That's not the thing. Yeah, everyone hates crime, but there's this special, hate crime where I don't, it's just I don't know, man. Like I do think there's gonna be some sort of repercussions for Jussie Smollett, but we'll never hear about it. Like he'll
Yeah, of
probably
course not. Yeah,
um
because then it'll be like time's already served, because like the time that he's like being held in like county lockup or whatever, and then like he'll be on probation, and then
Yeah.
He'll have to like do community service and then pay a fine, and then that'll be the end of it.
That's probably what's going to be the gist of that. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think Ghislaine Maxwell is going to prison. Unfortunately, as much as I would love to see her rot in jail forever, or
Yeah. Or just flip on everybody and just start naming names.
which would be great, but she would be dead if that was going to be the
Yeah.
case.
She'd be Epstein.
Yeah,
She'd be Building 7.
yeah. Um, but it's just the fact that like there no mainstream media. I mean, I won't say zero, but next to zero coverage of these cases.
Right? You might hear like little things like, oh, but they won't be like covering it as hard as they were the Rittenhouse trial.
This was on the art and literature section. We talked. It's like no one's fucking reading that fucking section of the newspaper. All right.
And I was like, yeah, it's like, well, yeah, there was an article in the life and style section.
Yeah, it's like, well, oh Jesus, oh thank you for that hard hitting journalism.
Right? It's
It's
like,
like,
well, thank you. No. Thank you.
oh God,
Jeez.
it's frustrating.
Right?
These,
It is. Yeah. I mean, before all the crazy, before like their plans got fucked up in 2016. You know, like if their plans weren't like if Donald Trump didn't throw a monkey wrench into their plans, like all of this stuff would have been like at least another 10 years
yeah,
before it
yep,
happened. But because Donald Trump, because of the monkey wrench that is Donald Trump winning in 2016, they knew they had to ramp up their plans, and that's why you had like the increased amount of like crazy talk about like white supremacy and like we need to well basically yeah just like all this white supremacy talk and you know ramping up like the decohesion of the United States through all these highlighted deaths or whatever, calling for like the defunding of the police, and now with like basically Marxism, disguised as health policy.
yeah,
Um, yeah, if Donald Trump hadn't won in 2016, like all this stuff would still have been like at least 10 years down the line. But like whoever they are got freaked out, and so they're like, no, we have to move up the timetable.
yeah, and hopefully we all will wake up in time to quell that from happening. But we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like I said about like the whole like lockdowns and mask mandates and stuff, the time to fight has passed, but it's never too late to start fighting.
Yeah.
So
Um.
so I mean, if you start noticing some patterns, if you start seeing things like how like we see things, then the time to like stand up is now. The time to like for someone, it's like, oh, someone else will take care of it. No, it's time for us to take care of it
Yeah, and we're not
because no
Russell
one
Crowe
else will.
from A Beautiful Mind seeing patterns. It's just
Yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly.
or to a worse extent, Charlie Day and It's Always Sunny.
Yeah, Pepe Sylvia, Pepe Sylvia.
Oh man.
uh, but yeah, all right. Let's wrap things up with the movie review. And just to remind you guys again, tonight is the last movie in this month's theme of suspense thriller, and that is Memento, starring Guy Pearce, Carrie-Ann Moss, Joe Pantoliano,
Joey Pants.
directed. What was that?
Joey Pants.
Joey Pants.
That guy does not get enough credit. He's so great. I like him.
Yeah, no, yeah, but yeah, he's a great character actor. I mean, I would put him up there with like Robert Duvall in terms of like character actors.
Oh, he is great.
Mhm. All right. All right, let me hit y'all with the synopsis and then we'll get started. Leonard is tracking down the man who raped and murdered his wife. The difficulty, however, of locating his wife's killer is compounded by the fact that he suffers from a rare, untreatable form of memory loss. Although he can recall details of his life before the accident, Leonard cannot remember what happened 15 minutes ago, where he's going, or why. Again, this movie, at least in the U.S., was released on March 16, 2001, directed by Christopher Nolan. A
Based off
budget of
based off a short story from his brother Jonathan Nolan.
right, a budget of $9 million U.S., but it did make a profit, a crazy amount of profit, in raking in $40 million.
Damn, that because this is his second film. Because this is right after the following.
Mm-hmm.
Um, was it following or was it the following or following? I don't. I think it was following.
I think it's following too.
Yeah.
Following also.
Yeah. Because this was done a couple years after following,
Mm-hmm.
and this was the. I don't even know where to start with this film, but like I will say like kind of like how I came to this
Yeah, I mean,
film.
normally I would say start from the beginning, but that's a relative term in this case.
So I'll say how I came to the film first because this is the first film that I saw, and I've always been pretty much my whole life I've been watching like movies,
Mm-hmm.
and this is the first film that I saw where like what film can do this? Like it just like it was this was so different from what I had been like watching in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I'd watch some of the great classics, and I was very familiar with like American Graffiti, Lawrence of Arabia, the Indiana Jones trilogy,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. Psycho,
Yeah, the classics.
some of the great classics. But this came along, and I it blew me out of my fucking seat. I was just
Mm-hmm.
like, this is crazy. And the first viewing of it, I was like, what is happening? I was so because
Right.
and
The movie does, it can discombobulate you, given the nature of the storytelling format. And if you're not aware, Memento is a story that's told in reverse,
right.
but also told forward simultaneously.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing too, because Christopher Nolan talks. I watched an interview with him talking about this movie, and
Mm-hmm.
he's saying that like because it's an intentional discombobulation, where because we are following along with Leonard, and we are usually in a movie before this, like you're listening to like what the character's saying, and it's like we either know what this guy is saying is bullshit, or oh no, this guy is like what he's saying is true. In this case, we're led to believe like, oh, we're with our character, we're we're kind of following along, we understand his condition, but the fact that like uh all that is like kind of turned on its head, where as the movie progresses, we start to like kind of like with like Leonard's memory and like how like he perceives things, we also are kind of like losing perception on like the story itself, because his story becomes more and more unreliable as the
Mm-hmm.
movie progresses.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and that's one of the components that is actually a feature of this movie is the concept of the unreliable narrator.
Yeah.
Which again, it's really great because Chris Nolan also like kind of hangs a lantern on that. You know, when Leonard is talking about like eyewitness testimony, he's like, oh, you can't trust eyewitness testimony. It's like, eyewitness testimony, changes the shape of the room or changes the color of a car. It's like it can't, you can only go off of facts, which is which is which again is kind of ironic because towards the end of the movie you find that Leonard kind of seemingly makes up his own facts.
Well, and that's hey, just like our news media, So,
Yeah.
so
And there's your through line, ladies and gentlemen.
but no, and actually, it's funny that you mentioned that because Christopher Nolan talks about this very too, like about this point too, where there's like those two moments in the movie that kind of somewhat give it away.
Mhm.
Where like you have the very first scene of the movie where it's done in like kind of like a reverse shot, which should give you an idea of like how the movie's going to progress. But like that,
Right.
also that scene of him talking with Teddy about like the idea of, oh, investigators don't go off of memory. They go off of facts. They collect facts, they deduce, and then they come up with like the conclusion. And that's you know it, it's really, this movie is gonna throw you for a loop. And I was talking to you yesterday how like the bones of his most recent movie Tenet are in there, which
Mhm.
is true. But I would say also like this is its own thing as well, because he the guy that was interviewing Christopher Nolan was like, "Well, how would you diagram this? Like, how did you like?" He's like, "Well, I don't really diagram things. Like, that's not how I write my stories. But let me see if I can like put it in a way that would make sense." So essentially, like he has like you have the end of the movie, and then you have like the start. But like there's technically two starts of the movie. uh there's the and essentially there's like what happens is like it's this hairpin that like comes together at the end of the movie. One is a series of events that are going like we're getting these vignettes that are going back. Essentially we're starting at the end and we're going to the beginning through like, and we're seeing how they connect. Then we get the story of before the events of like the end of the movie, and like how they convert, and that's moving forward in time through the series of like the black and white scenes of like Top Gun. And then all of that kind of converges at the end of the movie. But those two things talk about they're told in two different ways. There is the color scenes are the what are subjective. We're seeing it through like just what we're told, like how the scenes are playing out, and we have to kind of figure out what's happening there. Whereas the black and white scenes are more objective because he's telling about his condition, and like kind of like we're getting kind of more of the facts of like who Leonard is, why he's there, what he's trying to do.
Right.
Um,
Those black and white scenes are more expository. Like they're giving you
and,
information.
exactly, and like they're told in a different way because we're not really. Whereas like in the color scenes, we're seeing we're in Leonard's mind. Like we can hear his thoughts, we hear his inner dialogue, stuff
Mhm.
like that. Whereas in this one, we're just hearing him talk. We don't hear the voice on the other end of the line. Although we do
Mhm.
figure out who that is, who was on the phone beforehand at the
Mhm.
end. Um, so it's you're having two different storytelling ways like that are converging in on one another. And as it converges towards the end, that objectivity and the subjectivity kind of meld. Um and that's and the other thing too is that which is also something that I did not notice until Nolan talked about this is that all of the scenes talking about like uh because there's stuff that happened before the movie even started that we
Hmm.
don't really know about that gets kind of revealed towards the end.
Hmm.
Uh, and then like all the scenes that usually deal with his wife are in color. And then all the scenes like talking about like the remember Sammy Jenkins, um, those are all in black and white.
Right.
But as the movie progresses, some of those scenes with his wife merge into the black and white, and like the Sammy Jenkins and the story with his wife merge. Times I think they flip flop a little bit, like where they start to like sometimes you see it in color, sometimes you see it in black and white,
Right.
and that's the show kind of like where it's kind of like Leonard's mind, where it's like it's getting mixed up, like the
Right.
facts of like what what's true, what's not is being mixed up because we're in Leonard's head, and his what he is dealing with is it's unreliable.
Hmm.
And that's what like towards the end of the movie we start to realize how unreliable his he's talking about always about this process and like he has everything kind of yeah, he's dealing with his condition in the best way he can.
Right. And he has
But
a system.
but in reality he is his condition is not only being manipulated by the people around him, but he's being manipulated by himself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, which goes into what I alluded to earlier when I was talking about him, coming up with his own facts. Like, when like Joey Pance's character of Teddy, we find towards the end we find out that he's actually a police officer who's been helping Leonard with his investigation into who killed. But then he eventually like he uses his condition to betray Joey Pance's uh, character by making him like the bad guy.
The the other thing I was thinking, like, because here's where what I was thinking too, because we know that Teddy's a cop,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he was probably the guy that it was investigating not only the rape of the break-in and rape of his wife,
Mm-hmm.
and they were able he felt bad for like what had happened to Leonard and wanted to
Mm-hmm.
see him get some sort of vengeance because of his condition, his uh, it messed him up, and so he's like, okay, well
Yeah.
I'm gonna help you, like we're gonna find these guys, and like you deserve some sort of vengeance,
Mm-hmm.
and what's revealed at the end is that he does get that vengeance, but because of his condition, he never remembers it, and
Right.
despite having the photos, he just doesn't. And he because if you notice on those photos, there's no note on it at all.
Right. It's just like the one where Teddy tells him like, yeah, this is I took this picture. This is the night that you killed him. Yeah, there's no script on it. There's nothing that's written that says like this is the date. It's like you got him.
Why do you think why do you think that is? Because we know it's because I'm wondering because obviously like Leonard didn't take the picture himself.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
Teddy. Well, yeah, Teddy says that he's the one that took it. Um, but
but
maybe in that moment.
do you? Oh,
Uh,
you know what? Here now I'm coming up with this as we're talking about it and kind of talking about like you kind of like how Teddy used Leonard's condition.
mhm.
I think that he took that picture and kept it to himself because he knowing that like because there's probably a moment where like he saw that like Leonard did this and like he's like he got his vengeance and he was happy and then his memory crapped out on him. he couldn't
Mhm.
keep the memory in his head, and he saw the pain that was in it, that pain that was going through him again, thinking that like I have to get vengeance for my wife, and he is using that as a way to like I can use this to get at like criminals that are there. How many John G's or Jimmy G's are there? Like, and how many of them are criminals? And we can take these guys out. I can manipulate Leonard in this way to take out a lot of bad guys.
Yeah,
And
that's the theory. That's the theory.
you know,
That's a Yeah, that's the theory that I told you last night. That what is it? Yeah, that Teddy was using Leonard to to take out the guys that he couldn't get like legally because like like because of circumstantial evidence or because like the lawyer was good or just
oh no, no, no,
the
and no, I give you credit for that. But no, but as far as like, because normally on those photos, Leonard's the one that's taking them and he's writing notes on them.
yeah,
And but like on that particular one, there's no note at all. Like I
yeah.
got, normally you'd say like I got him. I can rest easy. Something like that
Mhm,
where it's like he can look at that. It's like I got John G.
mhm.
Um, and I think that that was withheld uh, by Teddy for that reason. Like to because the thing is like where it's kind of fucked up. Like just to kind of like I can just use this guy. But I think that like because he had helped him, but then saw how his memory fades, and like I guarantee that pain came across his face again, and Teddy knew that like, oh, this guy, like he's never gonna live a normal life. He's never gonna be happy. And so why don't I give him something to do? Why don't I give him something to continue, constantly like I'm gonna chase after give him a reason. We're gonna chase after these John G's. How many of them are there? It's and kind of like what you're talking about, going after people that he couldn't get at good at, through the law, but like but he can use Leonard.
I'm gonna okay. I'm gonna slightly disagree with you in that because it was Teddy that slipped in during the black and white portion. It was him that slid the Polaroid underneath the door to him.
I understand. That's why I'm saying like because normally Leonard would have those with him if he like, oh,
Right,
here's the photo, here's the proof that you got him.
right.
Why did Teddy have that on him? They,
Okay. But what I'm trying to say is that if if he was somehow using him, maybe initially not maliciously, uh, but then why would he try to remind him that he already got the guy?
I'm wondering if he felt bad. That's
Well, see, I'm gonna explain myself just a little. Okay, like it doesn't make sense that he would try to jog his memory or try to get him to remember, like, oh, you already got this guy, remember? If he was just, if it was just as some sort of guilt thing because he wasn't able to remember. Or my thing is maybe there was no writing on it because Leonard didn't come up with the system to write things down yet.
oh, that could be too.
And so yeah, and I think he and then maybe Teddy held on to it so like he could be the one to like always remind him, hey, remember you got him. But and so like like him like trying to jog Leonard's memory is like yeah his like some sort of guilt thing too because he's like because he's trying to snap maybe because he's like trying to snap him out of it as well. And in an interesting way, I think he in that way is in the role of Mrs. Jenkins and maybe his wife too, because like he tells a story of the last time that Sammy Jenkins gave his wife insulin. It's like he kept giving her insulin, and so this is kind of like Teddy doing the same thing, seeing if finally like Leonard will snap out of it and remember.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, I again kind of similar to you. I just came up with this idea and was working at it like in real time.
Wow. And just like his wife, he ended up dead.
It, exactly.
Oh my god, that's interesting too. See, this is the fascinating. This is why I love this movie, because there's so many different avenues that you could travel down, like, and trying to figure this out. Because
Hmm.
this is one of those, like, just like what like Leonard deals with. It's the unsolvable puzzle.
Hmm.
Um, because well, even like when you go through this movie and you try to put it together chronologically,
Hmm.
even then, like, it's well, it's still a fascinating movie.
Hmm.
Because you, but like it's still kind of like I said, it's that unsolvable puzzle. Because like,
Hmm.
why do like you have characters that are all the characters that are around Leonard are manipulating him and using him for their own end.
Right.
Uh, she because Natalie, played by Carrie-Ann Moss, she wants to manipulate um, how she comes to find Leonard or discover Leonard is that because she was in a relationship with the guy that's killed at at the beginning of the film, or at the or
At the
at,
end, but technically the beginning.
at the beginning of the story. And um, when he drives up in like in the guy's suit and the car, she's like, "Oh, hey, Jimmy," and it's like, "Oh, wait, you're not." Oh, sorry, I was looking for somebody else. And once she saw him like in his clothes and in his car, she realized like, oh, he's dead, or something had happened to him.
Yeah, something had happened.
And so that's why like she was so cruel to him. But then I think she saw that like, oh, you're telling me about this condition, or she had heard about this guy's condition from Jimmy,
Hmm.
because Jimmy, talks about him as like the memory man. So
Hmm.
clearly there was some sort of like previous engagement with Leonard and
Hmm.
Teddy. And Natalie obviously knew about Teddy too, through Jimmy.
Hmm.
And once Natalie started talking, like, she was kind of like being very cruel and kind of nasty to Leonard,
Hmm.
because she was hurting because of Jimmy. And afterwards, like, oh wait, your condition is not bullshit. And I think she started to feel bad, like, oh, and because she had manipulated him, spit in his drink, and had manipulated him to kill somebody that was after her because Jimmy owed that guy money.
Hmm.
And I think that's why, like, later on, like, she was telling him about, like, the guy that she lost, Jimmy, and that, like, why she ended up sleeping with him, because she's like, oh, and even the note there too is actually kind of true. Natalie is like, she will help you. She has lost someone,
Hmm.
because she too has lost someone. That's true in a way. Like, he doesn't realize that he was the one that caused that loss,
Right.
but in reality, it's true. And I think she knew that it's like she was him, but at the same time, she knew that she's not responsible, and that it was Teddy that was more the one that was responsible. And
Hmm.
why she, like, when she tried to help him find like uh Teddy's, like, who Teddy was, and like kind of like helping him to figure that out, like,
Hmm.
oh, and he just happened to be a John G, a
Hmm.
John Edward Gamble.
Hmm.
And it was kind of her way of getting revenge on, because it was Teddy that had killed someone that she cared about, and in a weird way, like you almost have like where Natalie and Teddy are at odds with one another, and they're
Mhm.
using Leonard as they're manipulating Leonard to kind of like get to hurt one another
Yeah.
because
Yeah, because like
know
yeah, because
Natalie, that we see in the movie, their only connection is through Leonard.
mhm. Right, and it's like yeah, and it's you kind of wonder like how did Teddy know to go to Natalie's house or where even Natalie lives? Because there's like that scene where he just kind of appears like right in front of you know Leonard or like is in the car like outside of Natalie's house, and it's like how does he know where she lives?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really this is man. I have this is one of those movies where like when we were talking about it yesterday, we were talking and like trying to work through a bunch of different things,
Hmm.
and, like trying to figure this movie out. And like I said, I think this is one of those movies that you can watch it 100 times and not get bored because it is an unsolvable puzzle.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because then you could like because you focus on like kind of like the main characters of Leonard, Natalie, and Teddy, but then you could also then switch and like focus on Dodd. Like who is Dodd? Like what's his deal? Or you can look a little bit more into Jimmy. And what is his what is it? I mean, obviously drugs, because he's a drug dealer. Um, but yeah, this movie is uh, it's very rich and deep, and there are a lot of angles you could pursue, or a lot of threads you could pull on, and you won't get bored. Um, I mean, just like Robert and I, we this isn't our first time watching this movie. Robert, multiple times. I've only seen it a few more times prior to this viewing. But yeah, it's all very fascinating and it's really well done. I'm particularly fascinated with the idea that Nolan was working out ideas for other movies. Again, like the idea of like in Tenet, there's the idea of like the pincer maneuver, where you send you know uh, a team or a group of agents ahead or backwards in time, and you all converge at a middle point. And kind of like how in this movie, where you have the forward moving story of Leonard, giving exposition, talking about Sammy Jenkins and so forth. But then you have like the main story, going in reverse from the killing of Teddy all the way up until where Leonard doesn't believe Teddy anymore, and you know and decides that I'll just have to kill him, because I don't believe him anymore, and I don't and in a weird way, I don't think Leonard wants the puzzle to be solved, or he doesn't want that closure.
No, because like you said, even Teddy was saying like who took out these 12 pages. Like, I assume you took out you took out the pages in like that file. It's like no, Leonard, you did that. You created a puzzle that you can never solve.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like how many John G's are there in the world? Like there's a billion of them.
Right, yeah, and then interestingly enough, like Teddy sets himself up to be the next victim.
Yeah,
By admitting that he's like, I'm a John G, for Christ's sake. And then Leonard gets back in his car, and it's like that's right, he is a John G. And so he then starts, he then takes he then utilizes the his condition for his advantage. So he writes down Teddy's driver license plate, so he could then look it up and find that he indeed is a John is a John G. John Edward Gamble. So he can start the whole process all over again.
Yeah,
Although
it's
I wonder is how well he'll get along without Teddy. If because
that's the
Teddy is
other
kind of like his constant companion and the one that kind of
protector
helps
and all.
him like set up for the next like John G or whatever.
That's the thing I was thinking about too. Is like, what happens like now that Teddy's dead? Clearly, he had been like watching over him and protecting him in a lot of ways.
Mm,
When he's gone, he's got nobody,
yeah.
and he's not gonna remember either.
Mm,
I think he killed the one guy that was like maybe Natalie, maybe, but like I think more or less,
right. I
um,
mean, yeah. I mean, he essentially got rid of his only friend, his only like person, the only person he could like really truly trust in insofar as he can, and insofar as Teddy was kind of using him too for his own machinations.
yeah. The other question I had for you before we kind of come to a close:
Mm,
do you think that Leonard, because obviously we know that the memories, his memories, and the story of Sammy Jenkins are linked.
mm,
Where it's like we're giving Sammy Jenkins, but like that's not necessarily true in a sense,
mm,
um, or at least it's unreliable. We don't really know if
right.
what was said there is true. Do you think he actually was an insurance investigator?
Well, I remember telling you, well, yesterday, I theorized or I hypothesized that he might be a cop. That Leonard might have been a cop.
Mhm.
Um, um, Thinking back now, it doesn't really square with like the Sammy Jenkins story, um, because Teddy even like says like, "Oh yeah, you figured him out. He was a fraud." So like that was an actual case,
Yeah,
but so that was an actual case, and that was obviously a case of insurance fraud, but not and something that wouldn't necessarily be handled by the police. Um, but again, we're kind of going off of an unreliable narrator. So who's to say like because like there's that scene in color where like during the night of the attack he goes and grabs a gun,
right.
and which made me think that he was a police officer because like how many insurance investigators are would keep a gun in their house,
True.
especially
Okay.
if like this especially this being like the late 90s early 2000s, relatively safe, if he is an insurance investigator he makes enough money where he lives in a pretty good decent neighborhood, so like why would he even need a gun? Which makes you think that he is a police officer, and maybe um, the Sammy Jenkins case was an insurance thing, but it was more of a police investigation, where Sammy Jenkins kept saying that maybe Sammy Jenkins was like a suspect or something in a case, but he kept saying that like I got knocked in the head, so I have this I have
Oh,
short term
so
memory loss, and
so
Leonard is the one who figured out he was a fraud.
okay. So here's the thing, where like you think that like Sammy Jenkins may have been like a that he was under investigation maybe for killing his wife,
Mm-hmm.
and that like he was talking about like, oh, I have this condition, and that he was pretty much that through that investigation he found out was like he actually did kill his wife, that he didn't have this condition. But then, oh man, see that's the part that I can't square away, because
Well, maybe like it wasn't like the murder of like Sammy Jenkins' wife, but it's like he was implicated for some sort of crime. I don't know what, maybe murder, who knows? But like he faked or he started faking this short term memory loss thing.
Yeah.
And so yeah, not necessarily murder, but just like maybe it's like some maybe petty larceny or something, and like or maybe he like he's because again we can't trust like the description of Sammy Jenkins through Leonard because like who knows, like maybe he was a Sammy Jenkins was a car thief and and uh, what was it? He like stealing cars, and like one night, an owner was able to get the drop on Sammy and like knocked him in the head, and that's when he decided, and that's when he started faking, having short-term memory loss.
Yeah, like that's still like I think like the part of the movie that I'm working out, like as far
Mm-hmm.
as the whole how Sammy Jenkins and Leonard are involved.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really, to me, that's I think like the last piece of the puzzle, like trying to figure that part out and like how those two are connected, because I don't think we can trust what Leonard is saying, and yet like and I don't know if we can fully trust anything that like Teddy's saying either. Because I don't know if he knows all the story because he's going based off of maybe what Leonard has told him and like what he's investigated, but he doesn't really know the whole either. Because there was a whole point. It's like my wife didn't have diabetes. It's like she didn't. It's like and where it's like so. I don't think Teddy knew the whole story either. Uh,
Maybe, or like again, like maybe certain aspects are like melding into each other. Um, with because like again like the whole idea of how memory is unreliable because because memory can do so many things and change things and augment what people remember. Um, so yeah, I think, or perhaps Sammy Jenkins, it doesn't really mean anything, um, except for the context of like of him, of his like supposed memory loss.
Maybe. Oh man, yeah, I love this movie.
It's a good one.
It's a because the thing is, it's at the face of it, it's very simple. You have three, maybe like five characters really in the
Yeah, this is
story.
a very small cast. I was like looking it up, and like even with like the secondary or tertiary or background characters, like this movie is scant in terms of cast.
Yeah, it is. It's not like there's no like complex sets or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but at the same time, the story is so captivating, and the more you dig into it, like the more complex it gets.
Mm-hmm.
And I like I said, this is the first movie that like really hit me hard. Is like
It opened
that.
you to the possibilities of other ways of telling stories.
Yeah, like this is the first time that like I really felt like, man, I didn't know that stories could be told this way.
Mm-hmm. Right, because I mean, at least for you, up until this point, it's always been beginning, middle, end.
Yeah,
Um,
that and that's
but
not that this movie throws that right on its ass because this is told in a way that it's not, you know, first act, second act, third act. This is like, we're
it
getting a.
starts with it starts with the third act, and then kind of goes into the first act, but then goes back to the second act.
And the thing is, it's not fully like, yeah, it's not fully like, yeah, it's just a story told in reverse. But that's not true either. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I said, it's more of like it's stories that are it's a story of a character that's converging in on itself, along with like, and there's certain stories like memories that are from those different perspectives of the story of this character, And in reality, like a lot of all that stuff is kind of just being melded together because it's like the story is collapsing in on itself, just like Leonard's memory is collapsing in on itself. It just that every like 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever, like where he's constantly like, who am I? Or like, where am I? Like, what's happening?
Mm-hmm.
It's really it's a great thrill ride. I'm actually
Indeed.
shocked that we hadn't reviewed this earlier, but I'm glad we got a chance to really dive into this.
Yeah, likewise. This is a good movie.
Oh, okay. Um, but yeah, that's all I got to say about Memento for now. Like, it's man, I love this movie. It's my number two all-time favorite film behind Casablanca, and yeah, I love this movie to death. I was actually I was I haven't watched it in probably 5 or 6 years, and I was a little worried. It's like, am I just kind of remembering this like as like, oh, it's from like back in the past, like just how I really enjoyed this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched it, and I was like, oh no, no, it still holds up. It's still fucking great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Even in this is like in art, and this is like still in the beginning of Christopher Nolan's career too, and so like uh, to think that he had this he hit it out of the park early on in his career is simply
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, following what we which we did, I really liked. I That was one of the few movies I had not seen of his,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that it's not like his best film by any means, but like it definitely, you see like, oh, Christopher Nolan is working some stuff out, and
Right,
this
you see the bones of like what he's eventually going to do, particularly, but particularly his fixation on time, because arguably all of his movies have to are based on about time,
yep,
and I'd even say like even the Dark Knight trilogy, that those are based on time.
yep. But yeah, I this movie, home run.
Absolutely. Um,
That's all I got to say about Memento.
yeah.
I'm
I got
definitely,
nothing else to add either. So
yeah.
yeah, let's give our ratings and let's wrap this bitch up.
All right. I'm
Uh,
obviously like, I don't think it's any question that I'm gonna give this a 5 stars.
mhm. Yep.
It, it's it's simple. It's complex. The acting is great. The setting, the cinematography is great.
Mhm.
This is a brilliant idea for a film. I can't say enough about it.
Absolutely. Am I gonna agree with you tonight? Uh, I mean, not that I'm gonna go against you just for the sake of it. But I'm really torn because like, cause I'm trying because even though I've seen this a bunch of times, it's like the structure is still confusing sometimes. But I don't know if it's enough to ding it. You know what I mean?
but normally, like, if a director is just like, "Oh, it's gonna be ambiguous," it's like, okay, you have no idea what you're doing. But here,
Right,
I
but
think
this is purposeful. So I don't think I could ding. Yeah, I don't think I could ding director for a purposeful decision and execute it well. So I don't think I will. So yeah, I guess I'm in agreement with you. I'm gonna give this a 5 as well. This is a really great movie. Again, kind of prior to like my own kind of awakening to like uh, to visual storytelling, um, and even like kind of similar to Rob and coming to like new technical ways of visually telling a story. Um, this movie really does stand out, and it stands the test of time. Even 21 years or 20 years after it was released, at least in the United States, it's not even that much of a difference. Um,
it looked, and the thing is, like, it's not like it's not a dated movie either.
I mean, other than some of the cars and maybe some of the clothing, like that might date it, but for everything else, like those things are minuscule. Like it's not as though like we have flying cars now. Like a car with 4 wheels, you know.
Gas cars.
Yeah, no gas cars, really. But no, it's like projectile weapons. Have they ever heard of phasers?
Yeah.
No. No. Yeah, this movie still holds up great. Yeah, definitely 5 stars. Definitely worth a watch.
Several.
Definitely worth several watches. And again, just like Robert said, like every single time you'll get something new. Each time.
Because you'll pick up on different things, and you know it's kind of, it's almost like you're with Leonard, kind of along for the ride. You're picking and
Mhm.
we're picking up new clues every time we watch it, because okay, I know this now. Now that I know
Right.
this,
Yeah, and like there was like that shift from like sweet Natalie into bitch Natalie, and I totally didn't even pick up that part where like when she comes and like takes all the pens out of the
I missed
immediate
that too. Yeah,
yeah out of the immediate vicinity, so she could like scold and berate Leonard, causing him to lash out at her physically, which then she uses to manipulate him further.
yeah.
So yeah, it's like initially I didn't even see the like her pick like grabbing all the pens, so he couldn't like write down anything. So just yeah, freaking brilliant. Um, but yeah, that'll do it for our review of Memento. Both Robert and I give this a 5. Definitely go give it a watch. And maybe come up with your own theories about this movie as well. Um, if love to hear them from you. If you want, just put them down in the comment section down below.
Oh yeah, please. I would, if you guys have different theories than us, or like, present them. I would love to hear them, and interact with them, because this is a movie I love. I will always come back to this movie, and I would love to hear what people have to say.
Yeah. Well, maybe I should let you. Someone comment. Oh yeah, it was Bone Tomahawk. Someone left a comment about Bone Tomahawk. Yeah,
Oh
Maybe I'll let you reply to it.
yeah, I'll let me know. I'll do that, because I would love to. I like that movie a lot too.
Yeah. I don't quite remember what they said, but I don't think it was necessarily negative or like calling us idiots or whatever. But I think like just but what I do remember them saying about it is that they really love Bone Tomahawk as well. So
Okay, all right. Well,
yeah,
hey, even if they called me an idiot, as long as they like the movie, that's that's all that matters.
right.
Your review of Bone Tomahawk sucked, but I love this movie.
Right. Yeah. All right, folks, that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for joining us. I hope you're entertained. I had a good time. I know Rob had a good time. He always has a good time. Um, don't forget to come back. Don't forget to check out the library of other content we have. The Circle of Jerks main podcast, Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, and Rob's gaming show, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts, Twitter and Letterboxd at PodcastCOJ, and Instagram at Circulatories Podcast.
And
And
couple of more live streams before the end of the year.
Yep. Next month there'll only be 2 live streams. Since we'll be going on our 2-week break at the end of, as we do at the end of the year. We'll be doing for next month. We'll be doing Rob and I's favorite Christmas movies.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say the movie that I chose not necessarily my favorite Christmas movie because, but I was trying to like, if I was gonna choose God favorite Christmas movie, then I would make a different choice. And maybe
Right, I
this
know,
will
me too, because it'd be Die Hard.
well the but I think the ones that like the reason I chose what I did is like it's a Christmas movie, but it's also not like the standard like miracles happen on Christmas movie.
Mm, I see.
So it's kind
Oh,
of
that's
like
right. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Well, at least I'm picking one of my favorites, and
yeah. Well, and
Rob is
yours.
picking something that's like he's like really interested in.
I've been wanting to watch this movie, and now I have a chance to like talk about it. So all right, let's do it.
All right, there you have it. All right, that'll do it for us tonight. Come back next week, and we'll do it all over again.